Yeah, okay, great. Hi, thanks for all being here. Just as we're a small group, don't hesitate to ask me questions. I've got 20 minutes, and let's maximize me being up here and being able to chat with you all. So thank you for the introduction. My name is Kate Arthur. I'm the CEO and founder of a Canadian charity called It's Code Jeunesse. And today I'm going to not talk to you about computer science because I studied English literature. I'm currently doing my executive MBA at McGill and HEC, so I like business, but I'm not a computer scientist. But I am going to talk to you about the importance of education in computer science and why it's important for our kids to get involved. So I'm going to, did I get a clicker? No, I'll just do this. It's fine. So I spend a lot of time thinking about school. How many of you are in school at the moment? How many of you have been in school for more than 15 years? 20 years? Yeah, so, I think a lot about why. Like, why do we sit in school for so much of our lives? By the time we're 20, we spent most of our lives sitting in classrooms listening to teachers, doing projects that are very theoretical. And I do think about it a lot, and there's a lot of research and a lot of definitions on what education means. And to me, this is what it means. It's really important that kids and ourselves become engaged citizens so that we can socially and economically communicate and create with the tools around us. So we go to school to learn to read and to write and to learn mathematics. And these are all skills that help us develop down the road as we go into the workforce so that we can become socially and economically engaged. So why I think about education, I think I'm kind of built into my DNA, and I don't really have much of a choice. This is my grandmother, who was a successful entrepreneur in England in the 1950s from Manchester, and she jumped on a ship with her brother to northern Peru into a town called Piura, and realized that what was happening to children who were both mentally and physically disabled, they were being thrown to the pigs, or they were thrown into the Sierra and left abandoned. So rather than going back to the UK, what she did was start a school. She committed the rest of her life until 2008 to looking after children, driving around a beaten up truck, picking children out of the desert, and bringing them to the school and to a home to make sure that they also had a family. So I'm privileged and fortunate to be on the board of that school in northern Peru and stay involved with the work that my grandmother did. My mother, this is me not looking very happy, but I was raised in 5 different countries before the time I was a teenager. I lived in Lagos, Nigeria, and Argentina, and Misiones, Argentina. Lagos? Yeah, awesome. And this is in Lagos, this photo. Misiones, Argentina, and Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and for the work of my father, who was an engineer. And my parents could have put me into an international school with other privileged children who lived this bizarre world that I had lived in. But instead, what my mom did was start a school. So every country that we moved into, rather than putting us into these international schools, she started a school for the community that we were in. And this is me in Lagos, and really built into my system and my beliefs is that school has to be equitable and inclusive for everyone. So in 2012, we're going back now 7 years, I was running an IT company with my husband. We were raising 3 young daughters, enjoying the young family, and my eldest, who was 4 at the time, was starting to go into the school system, and I realized that our school was not doing what we need the education systems to be doing. They weren't making sure that our kids were getting the tools and the skills they need to be able to communicate and create in the world around them. And so with much help, and we've got Maud here, who was one of the first volunteers to join, who was studying at McGill at the time. I went into McGill and I stood up in front of classrooms and I said, "You've got to join me, we've got to make change, we've got to do something, and I'm not a computer scientist, I need your help." So we got an army together of students who came to help and were going to class. We didn't know what we were doing, but going into classes, we were teaching kids coding, computational thinking, how to build web pages. We were learning about Scratch. That was a platform that was, able to build in creative learning for students. And so we got up and running in 2013. And again, coming back to the approach my mother took about building a community, we started to build a community of practice as well, not just focusing on coding and computational thinking in the school system, but also in the libraries, and partnering with different organizations such as the National Basketball Association. So we've done stuff with the NBA, we've done stuff with the Canadian Space Agency, we've done stuff with Canada Council for the Arts, really trying to reach as many children from as diverse a background as possible. So our 4 programs, we have the Teach one, which is the big, difficult one, because we've got 13 ministries of education in Canada and in 2 different languages. So it's a complex system with no federal leadership. So it's targeting each of the provinces to make them change and to start to bring in the skills that are needed in the system. We do that with training teachers and in-classroom workshops. Then we have our Code Create Play, which are the after school, summer camps, stuff where it's lots of fun to play, and in the summertime and the breaks where kids are not in school. Our Code Create Celebrate is all about having fun and celebrating and being creative. We do dance workshops and art workshops, music, really trying to engage, every child who might have a different interest and might not be that computer scientist, logical thinking. And then we have our code clubs, which are, we have over 900 now, so we have about 920 code clubs running across Canada. They're free, volunteer-led, and always accessible for children in communities and libraries. So by 2019, we'd reached over 280,000 kids across Canada. We're in every province and territory, and they're educators, 8,000 educators. And this was largely due to funding that the federal government had injected into this area, knowing that if we were going to be an innovative country, that they needed to step up and start to invest in it. So we, at this time, in 2019, we really had a great reach across Canada, and we do have individual leaders in each of the provinces who are responsible for building that community in that province. And so at this time, we stepped back, and I started to go back into the classrooms to see what we were doing and how we could improve. And I really wanted to get kids to start to use technology, not just for technology's sake, but to start to use technology with purpose. And I wanted them to start to address the problems that we have in Canada. We have big ones here. 1 in 7 are in poverty. Women today make 69 cents to the dollar of a man. In Iqaluit, there are 3 out of 10 children who have regular food diet. So there are 7 that are food insecure. And our climate's warming twice as faster than the rest of the world. So we've got big problems, and I wanted to make sure that we had our kids engaged. At the United Nations, have any of you heard about the Sustainable Development Goals? Okay, great. These are 17 ambitious goals to be targeted by 2030. We have 192 countries that are committed to focusing on these 17 goals, and Canada has some high commitments as well to deliver on. And by the time 2030 comes along, which when these goals are supposed to be achieved, our kids will be adults, and we're not engaging them in the issues that they should be involved in and addressing. So at the same time, come back to, I was in classroom, so I had this thing, how are we going to get kids involved in solving these goals, participating in them. And I was in a classroom here in Montreal, and one of the teachers was using Siri as a tool, a learning tool in the classroom. So she was asking Siri questions, Siri was responding, and the same with the children. They were able to ask questions, and basic questions. What time is it? When is recess? They were having some fun with it. And I realized that we were coming back to when I started KCJ in 2013, our children are not aware of how the technology around them is communicating and controlling them. And as a mom, and at this time now my children are older, they are using technology to do everything from shopping, YouTube, chatting with friends, getting from school, going out on the bus. 95% of teenagers are holding these little devices in their hands and controlled with artificial intelligence and controlling them, and that worried me. So this generation is the first generation ever to be born into a world surrounded by artificial intelligence. As adults, we know the difference between a world before and a world after. Whereas now our kids don't know that, and they don't know where the technology is hitting, where algorithms are around them because they are invisible. So we launched in 2019 Kids 2030, which is getting children to use technology, learn about artificial intelligence and the ethical implications around AI, and starting to use that to work towards the global goals. So how we teach AI, and we do hear a lot about you're crazy, you can't teach kids about artificial intelligence, they won't understand neural networks and the black box, and we don't do that. We teach them about where AI is and the basic functioning of an artificial intelligence system. We always start with unplugged activity, then we go on to hands-on activity, and then actually a lot of the class is spent around discussion, around the ethical implications around AI. So in our classroom, we've created cards, and these cards break the classroom up into teams of 4. We have a team that focuses on color, a team that focuses on shape, size, and texture, and the teams have to then identify what the image is, and this is getting them to start to build their critical thinking skills before they even get onto technology. Then we go into continuing with the unplugged. We don't need to go complex and deal with major issues in AI, but we can have fun. And this is some images that we show with the students to show them that it's also hard for us as people, as humans, to not be able to identify the difference between a chihuahua and a blueberry muffin, and that it requires a lot of data to be able to understand what the images are. Then we go on to hands-on. We've actually created our own platform that allows children to take many images and start to train the system, and then they can start to learn about the confidence rates and how actual technology would work in the real world. And then we have this large discussion with the teacher and all of the students around where is AI in your life, so that they can understand that when they're taking their data, when they're using technology, what happens to their data, where does that data go, should they be concerned about their data, and then who's using their data, who's building the systems that they're using, are those systems always right, because at the moment our kids are asking Siri what's 10 plus 10, and if it says 15, they just assume it's right. So they need to understand that technology does not have all the answers. And some tools on how to deal with the technology and with artificial intelligence, to step back and to check emotions, to start to think about the preference bubble and understand what that means and the implications around that. And most importantly, to use the critical thinking skills. So by 2030, we will reach 1 million kids and 50,000 across Canada. We're working with UNESCO in Paris. We'll be launching a project in March on an international platform to engage all countries on the importance of AI education for our kids. And we need help. I know a number of you are volunteers with us, which is wonderful, but we really need help because we can't do this alone. We are in every province and territory. But we're a small team and a lean team, and we rely a lot on volunteers. And you don't need to be a coder to help out with us. You just need to be passionate about education and learning. Our kids are our biggest stakeholders, and they're the ones, they're not far from your age, and they're 12, 13, and making these decisions on going into high school, and do they take that extra math class, or do they use the technology for good or for bad? We're at this early stage of artificial intelligence growth, and it's going really quickly, and our kids need to be involved in this conversation. So I hope you can join us. You can check out our website. We have many volunteer opportunities, but just register with us and then we can get you to work with us. Thank you.